Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Byte-size Opinions. My name is Vadi, I'm your host, and today with me we have Nik. Welcome, Nik.
Hi, my name is Nik, and I'm happy to be with you, Vladi, today. Let's see what kind of
Likewise.
things. Let's see what kind of things we could discover and open up.
Yes. First, let's start with a couple of words about you.
I'm a software engineer, architect, specializing in front end, explicitly React applications. My passion is shipping quality products. I work in the bank, so we ship payment systems, and that's a breathtaking responsibility. And therefore, I try to practice various software craftsmanship practices like test-driven development, clean architecture, in favor to make things work as expected.
Well, React is very popular, so I assume there are a lot of questions everybody has around React and best practices, right?
Yeah, I receive a lot of questions on LinkedIn actually because my posts they somehow arise interests from perspective of new knowledge and people become curious and yeah.
It makes sense. Okay, so let's get to it, to the main topics for today. And we will start with, I think, one of your favorites, which is TDD. What do you think about this? Is it overrated or underrated?
Definitely underrated practice, I think. Maybe because the learning leap requires some effort, and therefore many people, after trying it for an hour, drop the practice. But in general, this brings a lot of benefits, especially if you want to craft software that works, especially if you have responsibility and you want to ship something that will serve people. Test-driven development is that practice.
Well, there you have it. I think that's one of the main problems. If you spend 1 hour or 2 hours trying out something, obviously it's not going to work out and you're not going to understand it properly and know how to use it, right?
That's right. From one perspective, from another side of the coin, now I think people are looking for quick gratification, quick solution. Even your podcast is named Byte-size thing. So
Yes.
because people are looking for shortcuts, they are not ready to invest a lot until they get a gratification. They need some quick solution that will work and then expand on that. So
Right.
I think where also there are plenty of opportunities, at least for me or for other people who are trying in and demystify test-driven development, is to build a new way how to learn it because the old
Mm-hmm.
ways doesn't fit anymore.
I agree. And I actually remember various tutorials, at least, which I followed back in the day, and even now, I think, and tutorials that were about, front end or JavaScript or any other language, actually. And most of them did not even mention tests or vaguely something resembling end-to-end testing. No intro whatsoever into proper unit testing.
Absolutely. Actually, in discipline, in front-end discipline, testing is forgotten. And most of the people just don't do any testing, not even saying about test-driven development.
And do you think that's true because it's hard actually to test things in front end?
Well, no, it's also about the motivation of the people. Front end is something visual, something that you build and can see, can away, can click on. And from that, you get motivation. You want to ship fast. So you build something, you see it on the screen, and there you are the most like motivated. But the test is someone else's responsibility. That's how the society think. Even our Scrum boards are designed in such a way that there is to-do column, in progress column, and then testing column. So developers are more around the first two columns, but whenever the job is done from their perspective, they see this visual output that they produced with the code. Then it's the ticket or the task moved to the right, to the next column, and that's not my business anymore. So there are plenty of things why testing is not like commonly used in front-end discipline, I think.
Well, that kind of goes into our next topic, which is Scrum that you mentioned at the board. What about this? Do you think this is overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Okay.
Absolutely overrated, I think, especially in enterprise or big organizations where this is followed quite strictly. I think too many of these ceremonies creates a lot of distraction for people to really produce an output. And yeah.
So would you say that Scrum is okay for a smaller company or a startup?
Scrum is okay in general. The point is not to over-invest into that, not to overcomplicate the whole organizational processes.
Got it.
Something like you don't have the rules in stone. You could have a daily stand-up sometimes, but sometimes your team doesn't need it, and that's fine to go away with that and work a week or so without it. And the same with other ceremonies. So things shall be more focused on product delivery rather than arranging ceremonies around it.
Makes sense. So keeping your agility.
Yeah, agility is quite big term.
And that's hard to happen in a larger company, I assume.
Well, in different companies, it works, in different no. And people get used to that, don't claim against this, and things or ceremonies or habits continue throughout the years. The point is whether it's efficient or no, that's a different story. From my perspective, more efficient is a close collaboration with each other. For example, in my team, we practice pair programming, mob programming. We even include business analysts into the process, so we all discover business requirements up front. Then we try to document them in a form of high-level tests together. And this way we build contracts, let's say, between tester and the developer, that there is this definition of done in the form of high-level red test. And for developer afterwards, it means if we implement it against this test and these tests start to pass, this means that we achieved what we have a contract with tester against. So this collaborative work, doing literally together, this is way more effective, I consider, rather than trying to build some ceremonies and then distribute the work and do it in solo.
And do you use the tests that you create through this flow? Do you use them as documentation, essentially?
High-level tests are documentation for our development team, yes. We are trying to put the test in such a way that they capture user journeys. So everybody can anytime come and see whether a particular journey fails and where it fails. And also it describes the behavior of the software of the React app in particular. It describes okay, what does it mean to make an international payment? What does it mean to make a domestic payment? What does it mean to see the validation errors when the payment doesn't go through? And various journeys that the user actually goes through when interacting with our software.
And that makes the onboarding for a new team member easier, right?
Both this documentation and our active team collaboration makes onboarding way easier, because we right away, when somebody joins the team, jump into the pair programming session. We literally do things together. We enable new people to shadow you at the beginning, to see how you work, to open up all the problems you face every day while tackling tickets and tasks. So this is kind of cold shower for new people, but the onboarding is way quicker.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, for the next topic is targeted towards software developers, mostly working at a startup. What do you think about it?
Well, I used to work at a startup back then as well. I
Okay.
think it's awesome from certain perspective. You have
So it's
a lot of
underrated in a way.
it's underrated in a way. Yeah. You have a lot of flexibility and freedom, and especially when there is a match between your interests, that you really want to create a product that you believe in, and maybe you even will be the customer of it. Then there is like beautiful environment, I think, to grow, to learn personally, to see the evolvement of your career from different angles, not technical, but also from business, from product, because you are involved in many processes and many decisions.
But can you say that it's the right fit for anybody?
Totally no.
Okay.
Totally no. It depends, like at which stage of your maturity you are, because if you
In
want to
life or in career?
in career, yeah,
Okay.
because if you want to really get into software craftsmanship, startups at a very early stage is probably not the right thing, because they demand the quantity much more than the quality, and therefore your workflows will be driven by that.
But that doesn't make. I mean, it might make sense for a startup to be focused on quantity, but does it really?
I think for a startup to survive in general, you need to quick verification of your path, of your ideas. And for that, you need to figure out what to ship to home, and
Yeah,
ship it obviously with good quality, so you could measure that right.
correct.
And there you have to be in more, like, I think, a way where you could bet on something without really being confident whether it will fully work. Because what for you is important is to verify the hypothesis, verify
Yeah.
some idea, get knowledge about that, and move on. And in enterprises, it's slightly different, because the business is already ongoing. There is no need to survive. There is just need to improve and so forth. And therefore, you care about quality as a first priority, because trust matters much more at that state. You already have customers, you want to keep these customers satisfied, and therefore you ship like differently.
Yeah.
So I think
Understood.
for different people and different like maturity in life, what do you want? Whether you want more dynamic like environment where you really ship quick, fast, try to achieve some quality, then throw away everything you did and build from scratch and so forth, then that's a startup environment. And if you are more into really measure stuff like performance of your code, of your code, scalability, and clean code, then it's different. You need time and effort to measure that, to understand what actually adds more value, what kind of
Yeah.
tests to write, what are efficient tests and what are not. And this takes a lot of effort from your side, but that also makes you professionally grown up, very mature, you know.
So, but if I'm starting or at the beginning of my career, and I'm assuming it's, let's say it's equally easy for me to apply to a startup and get accepted, and or to apply to a larger company and get accepted. Disregarding the financial aspect, which option would you go with?
At the moment of life, I would go with a bigger organization, mature organization.
Interesting.
Because I know that there are already interesting things built, businesses running, and there you could create a different way of impact. You could create big impact with some big effort because you already have certain customers, certain people who will tell you whether you are right or whether you are not. So you personally could do different experiments. Recently, for example, in my team, like not recently, but a few years ago, I started the initiative to produce an integration tests for our React application. It took a while because the organization is in general quite big, but step by step, I was trying to role model how this works, why these tests are beneficial, and people started to get inspiration inside, started to see the measurements that I did and impact that this type of tests produced, and started to join it. And now whole my team is doing this every day.
Nice.
So it takes time in bigger organization, way more time than it would take in startup. But you could personally, I think, grow a lot with this from different dimensions. And for my current stage of life, this is way more interesting than rather creating something very quick, dynamic, dirty, and so forth.
Got it. Good. Next topic is the idea of AI replacing software engineers. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm doing everyday EI,
Okay.
and I think at the moment this concept is overrated. I cannot
Okay.
say about the future. I think that AI could be your peer buddy in certain way, but at the moment it requires a lot of effort. So in my IDE, I'm using several LLMs to help me out with certain tasks, daily tasks that I'm doing in regard to software development. And the thing where I like spend time is to figure out what shall be that best prompt that will help me to get the maximum output that will be useful.
Yeah.
And I think it's called prompt engineering, these kind of tasks. At the moment, it still needs time, especially in the complexity of big project like we have. From other perspective, I have plenty of training projects, which are small katas and so. And there I'm allowed to use Copilot from GitHub.
Okay.
And it works crazy good, especially remembering my decisions, remembering my priorities. So I
Oh.
coded certain pattern, and it scanned my code base, and then it suggests exactly like I would do. So it
Yeah.
speeds up development a lot. But so far, I can confirm it only on small katas that I have for my students.
Right. That's I didn't get a chance to play around with Copilot, but I know of other systems which also scan your code base and try to mimic basically what you have there. Yeah, it takes time to get the prompt right, and sometimes you spend more time, prompting rather than actually working on the problem, and sometimes that's not the best thing that you can do with your time.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about I? You already mentioned pair programming, so I can assume that this is also an underrated topic.
Very underrated topic. Yeah. Um, I cannot say why actually. Maybe because there are various blocks or impediments in regards to this, and one of the most popular is that management doesn't see a reason to spend twice resources on two people
Yeah.
doing one task together rather than they do two tasks in solo.
Yeah.
That's one impediment that I see. Another impediment is when you do pre-programming, you unveil to your peer your private space, and you show how you work explicitly, you show your computer screen, all these nuances, and this might be intimidating, especially at the beginning. Not everybody is ready and so close to the teammates to open up this.
Okay, very, very new and interesting perspective here. So, if you are new to the team, it would be a bit difficult, like you said, sharing, but it's easy to participate in, others sharing and you watching mostly, which probably helps in getting a good feeling of how things are working and eventually letting yourself share and see that it's not a big deal, basically, right?
Yeah, we do currently like that with people who are joining. We let them shadow us and see how we work. And this gives them braveness to try them out at some point. So they
Nice.
share. And so, because they already seen how we work and how we do it. And so for them, it makes easier for that. I remember that I introduced this pair programming practice 3 years ago in our
Okay.
team. I think I have a record of more than 400 pair programming sessions already.
Wow.
That's, I think, a big experience.
Yeah.
And well, it went not so smooth at the beginning. We were not able to figure out like how to measure the impact of that and how to do it. But within time, we tried different ways, uh, different setups, and came up to some efficient way where now everybody agrees absolutely that this is very effective way of working. And
Nice.
especially it reduces this buzz factor,
Mm-hmm.
when when many people actually have the domain knowledge, and if one disappears, the team will continue to produce outcome at the same speed.
Speaking of having challenges at the beginning, this podcast right here, this episode right here, is another example of me having technical issues with my whatever setup, and that's the way things basically work. At the beginning, you have some hiccups, some problems, but you keep trying, you keep pushing, you iron things out, and if you determine that it makes sense to continue down that path, you will eventually reach a nice workflow.
Totally. What you are doing is great, I think. In general, you are learning things, you are figuring out how to produce interesting educational contents for the community.
Yeah,
So if you continue, things will fine tune for sure, and you will produce way faster, way better quality.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Thank you. Speaking of communities, this leads us to the topic of LinkedIn as a social network. What do you think about it?
For me, it's a beautiful place to learn. I learn more than I share, I think, out of this.
Nice. And you're sharing quite a lot.
I'm sharing quite a lot, yeah, almost every working week, working day. The point I think to put, which is very important, at least from my perspective, how I learn, I encourage into discussions, in comments. I try to not only give this generic comment, okay, thanks for sharing your insights and so forth, or whatever generic comment you have seen probably everywhere.
Yeah.
I really try to ask questions to people, try to ask their experience. Oftentimes I switch it to the messaging. So in Messenger, we discuss many things in detail, and this challenges my knowledge. I see how people work, what they do differently than mine. And I get these doubts whether my approach is good or no, because now they shared me something I didn't know, I didn't even thought about.
Consider.
And now I
Yeah.
see, yeah, this, and I'm able to reflect on that and fine tune my concepts and knowledge about that. This is what I enjoy a lot.
Beautiful. So the gold is in the comments, basically.
The goal is in the comments, and even if you don't share, so you don't have to produce the contents like I do or some other creators do, like frequently. Really
Yeah.
jump in the comments and ask questions, experience, share what you experience, how you build stuff. Don't be shy on that, and there you will get the most output.
Nice. Good. Good info there. And speaking of getting knowledge, what about newsletters? The email marketing aspect of newsletters.
I follow certain newsletters, which are short mostly, because I also like bite-size information. I think that's actually the future, especially for Generation Z, which is after ours.
Yeah.
And therefore, these long newsletters I don't subscribe to, but where people share some small tips or some ideas we could think about right away, spending not more than 10 minutes in general, not only reading, but also thinking. These I like. But I think many newsletters doesn't follow that yet. Maybe because many of them are created by millennials, and millennials believe, unfortunately, of long information. And yeah, that's how I see it.
So in this podcast, we have the option of underrated or overrated, but there's also the third option of just about right. Would you say that newsletters are there, just about right, or overrated?
Overrated. Overrated.
Overrated. Okay. Okay. Great. Now, we have a couple more left. What about having a mentor?
Yeah, this is great thing. I think it's underrated, and I have multiple mentors. I have mentors in my company, and some of
Okay.
them don't recognize that they are my mentors because I know how to communicate in such a way that they will be my mentors automatically without even them thinking about this. And I have mentors who I'm paying for, and they help to bring a lot of value. They help to bring different angles. Exactly what I try to extract from LinkedIn comments, different angles of view. These mentors that I hire explicitly, they help me to see software development from various perspectives, and it unlocks opportunities for me to get better. Plus,
Nice.
I also do mentorship, by the way. So I have a program. Explicitly, we are training clean architecture and test-driven development with React.
Nice.
And all the sessions happened in a form of paid programming. So that's extremely practical. And yeah, mentees are doing this with me, keep learning, even give reviews.
So you're also paying it forward. You're receiving feedback and you're giving feedback. That's very nice. And I'm thinking that what you experience having at least a mentor that's inside the same company you're working at and another mentor from the outside. I think that's truly the best combination that you can have, right?
Yeah, totally. Because a mentor in your company might have some domain knowledge which are specific to you at the moment of time.
Yep.
And the mentors outside could have very different perspectives that you never thought about.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. And another thing that you mentioned, another topic, business analysts. But now the context is a business analyst in a startup. What do you think about that role?
It makes sense. I think it makes sense in the startup to have business analysts because people with these kind of skills, they can quickly try to understand the requirements and document them in a form that will be understandable by the rest of the team.
Okay.
So there are some kind of transition between the business and technical part, and involving them in the processes, doing things together, I think will simplify the work of technical people. Because I think the problem oftentimes that startup people, startup developers experience is this unclarity of the requirements, what to
Okay.
build, how the software shall actually work. Oftentimes, many things are unveiled during development. So you are developing, and then think, okay, what about this edge case?
Yeah.
Nobody thought about this before. So business analysts, we can handle that up front and unveil many things up front and put you in discussion up front. And to me, actually, since I'm test-driven development practitioner, I like to think upfront and then build because I think it's way more efficient. I put a test upfront. This is also a thinking process. What should be my desired outcome? What should the software do? How exactly? You know, and these things I do upfront in a term of test or in term of deliberate discovery session. And then I finally code. And then coding is much more faster because I don't have that football between unclarity things. So in startups, you will oftentimes have something like you build and you have some aha moment, and then you come back to somebody to ask how to resolve that aha moment, and then you continue. And here I try to eliminate this football between different stakeholders, let's say, thinking first up front, together or alone, but thinking first and then building.
I like it. Would you say that this role of a business analyst is critical in, I mean, in terms of it might make or break a startup depending on the quality of how well the role is performed?
I think this role shall, if this role is with high skills and experience in doing their job,
Yeah.
then it will have a huge impact on the startup success.
It will enhance and probably make progress faster, right?
Yeah, because at the end, it will have an impact on developers. Developers will be clear what to build and they will do it faster rather than they would have a lot of ambiguity on the way.
Okay. Makes sense. Of course, depends a bit on the startup where they are in the journey and of the team. You might have an awesome team that could, like you said, identify a certain use case that wasn't let's say, covered initially, and be empowered enough to make a decision, and say, okay, we're gonna do it this way, and this is, and pass this information on to, I don't know, a product manager or something like that, and be done with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so thank you. This was the first round, the main topics which we discussed in detail, and now we're on to the second part. It's called a rapid fire round. We're just going through we're quickly going through a list, and you'll just say if it's underrated or overrated. Just right is also an option, and you can also skip if you have really no opinions about that. And are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, Vladi.
Okay, let's go. The first one is the jam stack.
Just right.
Docker.
Underrated.
TypeScript.
Underrated.
Kafka.
Skip.
Cloud certifications.
Overrated.
Career breaks.
Underrated.
DDD, domain-driven design.
Underrated.
Hexagonal architecture.
Very underrated.
Open source software.
Just right.
VR, as in virtual reality.
Overrated.
Fintech or neobanks.
Just right, I think.
Kubernetes.
Skip.
Mechanical keyboards.
Just right.
Remote work.
I think just right.
Infrastructure as code.
At the moment, I think it's overrated.
And finally, story points.
Overrated.
Okay, thank you. That was it. This was the rapid fire. Thank you very much, Nik. I'm curious. I'm curious a bit about the mechanical keyboards. You had a smile there. I think there's a bit of a story.
Yeah, there is a story. I was a big fan of mechanical keyboards and had some custom ones, still have actually. But whenever the kid appeared in my family, this was not an option anymore because the kid sleeps and I cannot hit the keyboard so loudy, Therefore, I switched to a simple one, and for past few years worked just with a simple one. But really, I enjoyed the mechanical.
Okay, so you'll probably go back to mechanical in a few years.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nik. It was lovely to talk with you. Sorry for the technical issues, and looking forward for the next episode. If you have questions, if you have topics to propose, let us know. Thank you, Nik, again, and have a lovely evening.
Yeah, thank you, Vladi. It was fun
Bye-bye.
talking to you today. Bye-bye.
Very happy to hear that.